Hey, everybody, what's happening? And welcome back. And if it's your first time here, well, then welcome. I'm Craig, this is Foxy, and today's video, what we're going to talk about is which Gibson Les Paul is right for you. So without further ado, let's kick it off. So, talking about today, what we're going to do is break down some of the offers from Gibson. We're going to go from about $1,200 up to around $2,500 to $2,600 and Gibson Les Pauls that are available. Talk about the differences, the options, what they come with, and the whole works and my thoughts. Now, myself, my first Gibson was this Gibson Studio, and I've had it for many years. And I do want to give you an overview of the studio because I do think this is really a quality and great choice for someone who's getting their first Les Paul. For me, I absolutely love this Gibson Les Paul Studio. Plays fantastic, sounds fantastic. And speaking of sounds fantastic, let's go ahead and let me throw this guitar in a mix for you real quick so you can hear what it sounds like. After that, then we'll turn around and we'll break down the different Les Pauls that are available from Gibson and the price range we talked about. We're not going to talk about Epiphone, we're just talking about Gibson. And then what my thoughts are and what I think is great choices for you. The one thing that I will mention before I get into playing and we get into the breakdown of the different ones, I do recommend that you get out and get to a guitar center or your local, music store and turn around and try out the different Les Pauls and see how they feel to you. That being said, let's go ahead and listen to this little baby here in a mix. All right, as you see, I have gotten to the Sweetwater site already. And what I did is I went in and got a search on Gibson Les Pauls. That took us here. And then what I did is set it up from low to high for the price. And then we'll just start breaking them down. Now we'll look at the ones we've got available right here. Lowest price at $1,299. That's at time of shooting this video. And you can see that this is the Les Paul tribute. And in this particular case, they have one, two, three, four different colors. Four different colors. And I do not see a left-handed version of this, but maybe I'm just missing it. But they don't seem to have a left-hand version. Then we move down to the Les Paul Jr. I'm not really looking at the Les Paul Jr. We'll skip those because what I focused in on is humbuckers, because that's most common with Les Pauls nowadays, although the P90 was uh, there before, obviously, and the Les Paul Jr. has the P90s, one P90 in each, but we're going to skip those for now. And then we get into the Les Paul Studio, which those are $16.99. And as you know, the guitar that I played earlier was my Les Paul Studio. A little bit different colors than these, but um, absolutely a fantastic guitar. And those are $16.99. And I think we got some left hands of these, I would think. Yeah, we do. We have two left hands. So they offer a ebony and they offer the red wine red. I haven't been speaking long. Then we have the Les Paul tributes, which come with P90s. And you can see these are at $17.99. And then working our way down, the next thing we see is the classic, which is running at about $22.99, although we do have a classic here for $24.99, and we have the Les Paul Standard that's $24.99. We are going to look at these classics as well, and classic wise we're looking at one, two, these classics, or did I move to the standard? I moved to the standard. Looking for lefties, and I don't see a lefty. I know they have them, but I don't see them here. And then, of course, we have the standard at $27.99. That's kind of the highest that I went in comparison. So let's break down the comparison that I put together. Now, I already put it together. I picked out four different Les Pauls to do the comparison with. If you look here, you can see at the bottom you have the compare button, and that's how I selected these. I selected four and did the compare option so that I can look at them. And what's nice about this is it breaks it down, the different colors that we have. And I kind of did similar colors just because I did. Anyway, and then what they do is they break it down so you can take a look at it based on each individual option that it has available. So we look in body type. The Now we've got, first of all, yeah, let me go back. We have the tribute here, the studio, the classic, and the standard. So I picked four different versions in four different price ranges, starting at $12.99 up to $27.99 to look at. And the first thing you'll notice when you get to the differences starts off with the body type. In the Les Paul Tribute, you're talking the solid body, ultra modern weight relief. So obviously it's got the weight relief in it. And then you look at the studio, also has the solid body, ultra modern weight relief. And then the classic has a solid body, 9-hole weight relief. And then the Gibson Les Paul Standard, or the classic, has a weight relief, and then the standard has is just a solid body, no weight relief. So obviously it's heavier than the others, significantly heavier. And then we get down to the body shape. They call it the Les Paul Tribute, Studio, Classic, and Standard. I think the biggest thing you'll see in the difference, and I'll bring this back up, if you look at, let's go to our studio real quick. So here's a studio, and what you'll notice on the studio, there is no binding, although this almost looks like a binding, but there is no binding on the studio. That's actually just the reflection that you see. There is no binding. But when you look at your, and there's no binding on the neck either. But when you get down to our Les Paul Classic, we'll click on this, bring it in a little bit tighter so you can see it, and you can clearly see the binding here that it has on it. So that's one of the biggest differences, the binding. And that binding also, as you notice, is also on the neck too. So that's the biggest difference overall. Now there is some differences as far as your neck as well. Um, but everything else that we're looking at is pretty much the same except for those items. Um, and you can see they're all mahogany across the board. You do have the top material is maple across the board. Then you look at the body finish, and they're all nitrocellulose lacquer. This one's satin, everything else is gloss. Then, of course, the colors are a little bit different, but they're all bursts were the ones that I picked out. The neck material is different on each one. The tribute is maple, whereas all the others are mahogany. The neck shape on the tribute is rounded, where you have a slim taper on the classic as well as the studio, and they run a vintage 50 neck on the standard. Then if you work down, you see they're all set necks, 12-inch radius on all of them, rosewood fingerboards across the board. They all have the same fingerboard inlays, identical. You got 22 medium jumbo frets on all of them. Scale length is the same. Nut width is the same. The nut material is the same. The bridge is a little bit different, but there's not a lot different about them. The Nashville Tune-o-matic with stop bar on the first two, and on the other two you have the ABR1 Tune-o-matic with stop bar. So they're pretty much the same across the board. And when you look at the tuners, the first one has the Vintage Deluxe, and then the other two have the Grover Rotomatic tuners, which I personally like a lot, although I have a tendency to go and get locking tuners and replace them out just because it's easier. And with me, with my tremors, I need something that's a little bit easier. And then we have the Vintage Deluxe tuners also on the standard as well. And when you get down to the neck pickup, you have a 490R humbucker in the first two in our Tribute and our Studio. And then you run in the Classic, you have the Gibson 60 Burst Bucker humbucker, and then the Burst Bucker 1 humbucker in the Standard. And you can see the differences here. You got the 490T in the bridge and the 498T in the studio. And there's a couple reasons for that, and I'll tell you why in a second. You have a Gibson 60s Burst Bucker humbucker in the Classic, and then the Burst Bucker 2 humbucker in the Standard. Then I think this is probably the biggest difference here in these. You have two volume and two tone knobs controls on the Tribute, whereas you do have two volume push pull coil taps and two tone knobs. Now those push pull taps do is they split the humbucker, and what that does is make it almost like a single coil pickup. Not quite, but like a single coil. So it gives you different opportunities for tones and that sound that you'll get. In the Classic, you turn around and you get two volume, two tone with the push pull coil tap, and two tones with the push pull for bypass and phase. And then on the classic, you just get two volume and two tone knobs. Now, if we work our way down to switching, you get a three-way toggle switch. That switch, what it does is it gives you either you get a choice of your neck pickup, your bridge pickup, or both of them together. And that's what the three-way toggle pickup switch does, as most of you know. You can see they all come with Gibson 10 by 46 or 10 to 46 strings. And then in the first two, you get a soft shell case. And in the second two, you get hard shell cases. Although when I bought my studio came with a hard shell case when I purchased it. All right. With that being said, so my final thoughts. When it comes right down to it, this is something that you have to make a decision based on a couple of things. You have to decide, is it something that you can afford? And so my final thoughts. Well, it comes right down to a couple of things. First of all, what can you afford? You have to look at that first, obviously. Number two is, what are you looking for in a Les Paul? Hopefully going through all the different functionalities, specifications, as you will, that these Les Pauls have, which one meets your goals when it comes to that? I mean, one of the things that I like is the weight relief. I just don't like a heavy guitar, obviously, because I have issues with my back, my knees, and so forth. I have a lot of issues there. I need a lighter guitar. It's more difficult, even though I sit down most of the time. Still like a lighter guitar um, when I'm playing. You have to look at the functionality. Do you need the push pull pots? Are you planning on using it in a single coil type mode? You have to look at items whether you plan on trying to use it as an investment and hopefully get even more money back, like the Gibsons tend to do, where they increase in value and then you sell it in the future? Or is this a guitar that you plan on keeping and giving to your family in the future? So hopefully, the things that I went through kind of give you some insight into the different functions that the different Les Pauls offer. As we talked about the tribute, the studio, the classic, and the standard. Um, the Gibson Les Pauls are even more expensive if you want to work your way up. A good way to look at functionality and probable price is to go through Sweetwater and look at the different Gibson Les Pauls. You can see different colors and so forth. I also recommend that you go into your local guitar your guitar store or guitar center, wherever, and try out the Les Pauls. Try out a studio, try out a classic, try out the different ones. If they don't have the colors you're looking for, you can always go to Sweetwater and get them through Sweetwater or one of the other online retailers. I like Sweetwater because of their 55-point inspection, and I've had good luck with Sweetwater the entire time. So um, hopefully, all the insight I gave you works for you and tells you everything you need to know about the Gibson Les Paul and helps you make a decision on which one you want to purchase. Hey everyone, thanks for watching today's video. If you felt it enjoyable and you liked it, please go ahead and like, and if you would, subscribe to our channel. We definitely appreciate it. You can leave comments below, good, bad, or indifferent. Also, you can see a couple more videos below. You can choose one if you'd like to watch. And again, thanks for watching our video. Take care.